I think if you asked me to describe myself, I'd probably say that I'm jaded and cynical, but at the same time, I think I've also slowly started to get good at recognizing positives. Even with something like Saints Row 5, I can tell you something nice about it, like how the graphics look kinda good some of the time. So when I saw somebody on Twitter say that High on Life is the worst game of 2022, I was like, huh? I understand that opinions are opinions, but at the same time, I truly do not believe that most people have played a really bad video game other than Flappy Bird on the iPhone in 2012. Listen, man, if you boot up the game and it runs and it doesn't immediately start falling to pieces, that game is automatically disqualified in the running for worst game of any time. At least I think. Remember, Saints Row 5, for all of its problems, is the most disappointing game of 2022 for me. Not the worst game. There are plenty worse games that came out last year, and High on Life is not one of those. And no, it's not a phenomenal piece of work either, but definitely not the worst game of 2022 by a long shot. And to be honest, I didn't actually despise this game. I thought I was going to, but turns out the game is very okay. In case you've never heard of this game, this is an FPS made by Squanch Games, founded by Justin Roiland, and if that name sounds familiar, Justin is the creator of Rick and Morty and the voice of Rick and Morty. Now, Morty and Rick is a series that I made fun of in the past, but to be completely honest, I was totally hooked on it when it first came out, like a lot of people. It was smart, not in a you need a high IQ to understand it way, but it was sharp, and the worlds and characters and plot points were crazy. In its second episode, they enter Morty's math teacher's dreams to trick him into giving Morty better grades, and they keep falling deeper and deeper into his bizarre subconscious, and while all of that is happening, there's an entire other plot where their dog in real life starts a sentient dog army that walks around in mech suits and enslaves humanity. It is very easy to miss one really polished and excellently delivered joke as it stacks one lunatic plot point on top of another. The back and forth between the characters was great, like a more schizophrenic version of Archer. It was either genius or lunacy, and it was fresh, at least for a while. And then at some point the fan base started getting a little bit weird, and then I kinda just drifted from it. Not because of the fan base, but I just started caring about other things. That doesn't mean the show is bad. I mean, yeah, its approach to writing can get a bit old and repetitive, but on the other hand, you know, sometimes you just grow out of things, right? Remember when I used to like Borderlands? Yeah, that was a long time ago. Even though I'm no longer the show's biggest fan, there are things that I can still appreciate about it, and the universe, in a lot of ways, lends itself very well to a video game, which is why they made this dogshit phone game back in 2016. But now it's time for a real video game with guns and waypoints and markers and the dude from Smiling Friends.
You know, I put so much work in. I watched all those skincare tutorials.
Even though it's not literally a Rick and Morty game and has maybe one or two vague references to it at most, anyone who has watched the show will recognize the influences, so it almost might as well be. The premise is that you're a lame kid with no name who plays boomer shooters all day and gets berated by your older sister who's way cooler than you because she has friends and does drugs. But the mom and dad free weekend gets cut off when aliens invade the Earth, so you team up with Kenny, who is one of many Gatlians who are a race of aliens with gun-like properties, to meet Gene, the bounty hunter, only to find out that he has no legs and is now a drunken loser who just wants to sleep on your couch, so you become the new bounty hunter to take down the G3 cartel who are selling human life force as a narcotic and live out your epic gamer fantasy in real life. The moral of the story is that gamers are really cool or something, especially if they watch Rick and Morty and buy all the merchandise.
When you see one of your normie Facebook friends post about Rick and Morty, but you know they don't understand it's a frickin' lifestyle.
No, it isn't. It's just a TV show.
Are you sure? Because they say it's a lifestyle.
You know, buy merch though.
Making a unique FPS game is hard to do, at least from the gameplay end. You gotta have that Kojimbo creative gene to do that. The thing that sets High on Life apart is that the guns all have faces and talk to you. Even that's not entirely original. Cyberpunk had Skippy, and I'm pretty sure there's a Borderlands 2 mission where a gun berates you for killing people. But it does commit to this idea way further than those other examples. Every gun has a completely distinct voice and personality, and they always got something to say. which is not an exaggeration.
Let's do it!
That doesn't really affect gameplay, mind you, and really, High on Life doesn't do anything substantially new on that front. It's a story-driven FPS where you go somewhere, shoot some guy until he dies, solve some environmental puzzles, and talk to a bunch of characters that all sound like they were voiced by Justin Roiland. Traversal can be fun. You got these avatar plants that serve as platforms, goopy flippy thing, magnet boots. You got this power slide, a jetpack, grapple hook, and an aerial dash, so it's pretty much Doom Eternal if it was made by Reddit. For the kind of game this is, the pacing is refreshingly efficient, although the game does have a lot of extended, stilted dialogue trees, just like my favorite game, The Witcher 3. The combat is pretty shallow for the most part. There are some moments that feel great, but a lot of the time you can just sit in one spot spamming Kenny's bullets until he starts nagging you about his dumbass glob shot, but at least it looks and feels pretty nice when it works. Like I said before, if you've watched Rick and Morty a lot, you will immediately recognize the game's particular brand of absurdity and humor. If you remember the episodes where they're watching intergalactic TV and there's all these weirdo infomercials about like little bits, or what's the one where the guy like tears his skin off? That probably doesn't narrow it down at all, but the game is almost like a playable 15-hour version of that. The character designs typically either have that same self-aware dopiness or that overbearing grotesqueness. There are a lot of nerdy references to anime and video games, which is kinda cute sometimes, and a nice reminder that the game was in fact made by human beings that are just like you.
Mario Land, or whatever.
But of course, you can only milk Remember This Thing for so many laps before it wears out.
Let's see how many hours you logged in Fortnite or Minecraft. Do you play those games? Try to do a sort of psycho
Psycho Mantis.
A good chunk of the jokes and bits and dialogue have that kind of aggressively self-aware, self-referential structure where something happens and then the characters start describing what happened as if they're talking to somebody who didn't see it happen. Like, oh my god, holy shit, that thing, like, it happened, like, just like now. I didn't think that was like a thing that could happen in like this video game, but it totally did. Oh, what the how is that even, oh jeez, how is that even possible? I'm surprised there isn't a bit in here where Kenny goes like, so like, we have video games in space, you know, there's one called like The Last of Us 2, you've probably never heard of it, it's alright, I guess, but everyone says it's the best story in video games, like, I don't even, like seriously, have you played Nier Automata? I mean, like, I haven't either, but like my friends have, and they said it's really good. You probably never heard of it. If that sounds like it gets old quickly, that's because it does, which is why they added a feature to actually turn down the dialogue. It is a bit of a double-edged sword though, because the dialogue makes the game unique, and it is funny, you know, except when it's not. It's a balance that is really difficult to find, because it's going to be largely subjective to each player's tolerance levels, but if you're really willing to keep an open mind, you will find some genuinely good moments in here. These two guards at the slums gate are arguing over who's hotter, and for the entire game, depending on which one you think is hotter, that one will be friendly to you for the entire game, and the other one will keep telling you to fuck yourself. There's a whole bit where you can spawn in a movie theater and it's playing an actual movie from 1987 called Blood Harvest, and there's all these assholes in the front row who keep talking over it. They literally paid money to put real-life movies in the game just for a throwaway joke that a lot of players probably won't even see. There's a boss that punishes you by giving you an achievement saying you spent 15 hours in an alien strip club so all your friends can see it on your profile in real life. I think for me though, the funniest part of the entire game is the fact that the currency of the universe is pesos. Yeah, not even space dollars or bloober glorps or whatever the fuck, just straight up pesos. Maybe I should put a Mexico filter over the rest of the video. There is character development and some sentimental moments, although they often get shit on by some lame-ass joke before you have a chance to actually reflect on it. This is something that a lot of comedies do nowadays. They'll have a long overdue emotional climax just for someone to interrupt it before it comes to a head and go, "Papa Booey, you left the lights on, giggity giggity."
I'm gonna have to tell the other guns what I did, you know, or else he'll tell them.
All right, I'm back. Hope those tummies are ready for some yummies. Bon appetit.
Dude, take a fucking hint!
There's also a really lame part near the end where they try to pull a mindfuck on you by getting the player high and having them hallucinate Gene and Lizzie, preying on your insecurities and whatnot. I feel like a lot of games try to have a scene like this, and I've seen it work maybe 3 times in my life. Saints Row 5 pretty much did this exact thing, and it was just about as effective as it is here. The plot and the writing has some endearing moments, but I don't think it's going to be winning any awards. But I think the game's greatest strength is in its presentation. It isn't tech demo worthy, but the atmosphere is surprisingly thick. The animations are very expressive, and the lighting and environments are all very unique and vivid. There are times where the atmosphere is so thick that it feels like you can almost smell the game. It's up to you to decide if that's a good thing or not. What I really came to love though was the music. A lot of it is atmospheric, but there's also the banger that plays when you're in combat at the Zephyr Paradise jungle.
Hey, quit running! You can run, but you can't hide!
So should you buy High on Life? And maybe later when it costs less. I got this game as a Christmas present, so it's not like I spent my hard-earned cash money on it, and I think it's important to have that context. For a game where seemingly 90% of the selling point is, oh yeah, it's made by the guy who made that nerdy cartoon that everyone loved 5 years ago, it's a lot better than you might expect. At best, it's a funny adventure in a twisted alien world, and at worst, you know, it's just alright. I do not find this game to be offensively bad in any respect, and it's definitely better than stupid-ass Saints Row. If you still love Rick and Morty, you'll probably love this too. I would say it's an insta-buy in that case, and from what I understand, it's on Xbox Game Pass, so if you're already paying for that, give it a whirl sometime. But if neither of those things apply to you, I would not make this game a priority. I would save my money for other things in the meantime and then buy it later for a lower price when you're feeling adventurous.
When have you smoked? What, you're a smoker now? Wait, what is it? Camels? Marlboro? Mario Land?